Looks like it's 5:30, Eric. Are you going to start out?
Good afternoon, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Once again, sorry about being virtual, but I will call the West Fargo Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. And first item of business is the approval of the order of the agenda.
Move to approve the order of the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes from the May 13th, 2025 meeting. I know those were in the packet. Anybody have comments, questions about the minutes?
Move to approve?
Second?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second it?
Yours on.
There we go. Yeah, second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion about the minutes? If not, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next, we're going to move into the regular agenda, and I guess, Mike, if it's all right, I might ask you to help carry the agenda from here out, just with me being virtual. It looks like the first item is continued, but I'll pass the baton on if that's all right.
Okay, I'll take it from here, Eric. On the regular agenda, number one is a public hearing, A 25-8 Greenworks First Edition, a request for subdivision and planned unit development at the southeast corner of 40th Avenue West and 15th Street West for a retail nursery and landscaping services, a portion of Section 31 T139 North, R49 North, Nelson. This is continued from the May 13th meeting, and they're asking for a continuation to the August 12th meeting. However, since this is advertised as a public hearing, if we have anyone here that would like to speak on this item at this time, you're welcome to do so. If not, there will be a continuation of the public hearing in August. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? I guess the last call. Anyone want to speak on item number one? Seeing none, I guess we'll continue that to the August meeting. Item number two is a public hearing, A25-10, Gateway West Edition, a request for a conditional use permit at 1950 Cheyenne Street to allow for an illuminated sign facing a residential district. Lot 8, Block 1, Gateway West Edition. This is a continuation from the May 13th meeting. Lisa's going to take this.
Thank you. This application is for conditional use for an illuminated sign on the west side of Cheyenne Street at the entrance of the Gateway West complex. Under the general sign provisions in residential districts and signs facing residential districts, they shall not be illuminated unless approved as a conditional use permit. Similar applications were approved for several churches in the area for electronic message centers, as well as the Hulbert Arena, with conditions that include limiting the hours of operation to the electronic message center from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The proposed monument sign would be 19 feet high, with the upper portion consisting of an internally lit Magnify logo and the electronic message center along the lower portion of the sign. Standard brightness limits for electronic message centers located 150 feet from residential districts vary by jurisdiction. However, daytime brightness typically ranges from 5,000 to 7,000 nits for visibility in direct sunlight, with nighttime brightness often capped at 500 nits to reduce light pollution and glare. Automatic dimming is also used to adjust brightness based on ambient lighting. In terms of sign operations, the applicant included a drawing showing an example of the display and the operation that's included in your packet. Property owners were notified within 350 feet. We did receive comments from the manager of the Candle Park Candle Park West Complex on the east side of Cheyenne Street regarding concerns with brightness, hours of operation, and animation. And a call was received from a property owner to the north asking for more information. Staff recommends that the city approve the proposed application on the basis it is consistent with city plans and ordinances with recommended conditions of approval as follows. A signed conditional use permit agreement be submitted which outlines the following details. Use of the north-facing electronic message center shall be restricted to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. only. The electronic message center shall be off between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The sign shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles above ambient light as measured 75 feet from the sign face. The sign shall be located at least 150 feet from the adjacent residential zoning district. This is a public hearing. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Is there any questions for Lisa or staff by the board?
Say, Lisa, I had one question, Eric here, and that the condition 1A, the first part of that talks about the north-facing portion of the electronic message center, and then the second sentence just says that the EMC shall be off between the hours of 10 to 6. Is that both sides off from 10 to 6, or just the north side?
Just the north side, the side that's facing the residential district. The north side faces the gas station, commercial area.
Yep, okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, any additional questions? Seeing none, this is a public hearing, and we will open up to the public for comment. If you'd like to comment, please speak up at the podium and give your name and address, please. Are there any public comments on this? Second call, are there any public comments on this sign request? Last call, any public comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action, questions.
I move to approve the recommendation on the basis consistent with Lisa's conditions.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We are doing something a little different now. Going forward, we're going to be doing roll call voting, so I'd ask for a roll call vote, please, on this item.
Chair Dodds,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwan,
Yes.
Commissioner Weary,
Yes.
Commissioner Alman,
Yes.
Commissioner Gust,
Aye.
Vice Chair Thorstad,
Aye.
Commissioner Kaup.
Aye.
The motion passes. Okay, item number 3 is a public hearing, A25-12, FMD, which I would assume is Fargo Mortar Diversion, Mapleton Subdivision, a request for subdivision in sections 3, 9-11, 13-15, 24-25, and 36, T139N, R50W, FMD Mapleton Subdivision. Lisa?
Excuse me, I have a little bit of problem operating the mouse. Are you able to access that? There we go. Oh, no. Okay. Sorry about that. The applicant is subdividing undeveloped parcels from property acquired as part of the FM diversion project to further define property that will be permanently used for the diversion. The majority of the proposed subdivision is located within the city's exclusive extraterritorial jurisdiction. The remainder of the subdivision is located within Cass County subdivision jurisdiction. As such, the proposed subdivision will be required final approval by both the city and the county. This area is located between Cass County Highway 10 and 52nd Avenue. The primary purpose of the subdivision is to create formal property boundaries for the diversion right-of-way and simplify legal descriptions. Once the diversion is complete, the applicant intends to replat the subject property in order to vacate and dedicate road rights-of-way and easements as necessary, as well as make any adjustments to the project boundaries that may be needed. It is anticipated the applicant would apply to rezone the subject property to public facilities once the final project boundaries are established after completion of the diversion. Because the FM diversion is a public flood protection project, there will be no public land dedication required. It is recommended that the city approve the proposed subdivision on the basis that it is consistent with city plans and ordinances. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the representative.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Does the board have any questions for Lisa or staff?
Say, for the group's awareness, obviously I've been involved on the diversion project, and my company, A2S, was the survey team that's been involved in preparing this plat. I know this is the second plat that's come before the West Fargo Planning Commission. I don't feel like I necessarily have any personal conflict of interest, but I wanted to make sure everybody's aware of my involvement in the project and involvement in the platting of this as well. So anyway, if there's any questions about that, let me know.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on this item?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jason Benson, Executive Director for the FM Diversion Project. Just want to thank you for taking up this item and request that you approve it. As was noted in the discussion, it's predominantly to set aside this diversion property for the flood control process and to eliminate some of the existing easements that are there, roadway crossings, those types of things that are being eliminated by the diversion project.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this? Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I guess we'll close the public hearing on that and bring it back to the board. Any comments, thoughts, motions?
Move to recommend approval.
We got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Who was first?
I give it to Matt. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Chair Dodds,
Aye.
Commissioner Schwan,
Yes.
Commissioner Weary,
Aye.
Commissioner Amon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gust,
Right.
Vice Chair Thorstead,
Aye.
Commissioner Kopp.
Aye.
The motion carries. Item number 4, public hearing A25-13, FMD Warren First Subdivision. A request for subdivision in Section 1, T138N, R50W, FMD Warren First Subdivision. Lisa again.
Thank you. Similar to the previous application, the applicant is subdividing undeveloped parcels acquired as part of the FM area diversion project to further divine property that will be permanently used for the diversion. This area is in the Warren Township, which is a parcel on the south side of 52nd Avenue. It's recommended that the city approve the proposed subdivision on the basis that it is consistent with city plans and ordinances. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the representative of the application.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Lisa or staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. We'll open up the public hearing for anyone that wants to comment on this item. Are there any comments on this request? Third and final call here is public hearing. If anyone wants to speak on this item, please do so now. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Are there any additional thoughts, comments, or motions on this request?
I'll move again to recommend approval.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Gust. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second on the motion. So ask for a roll call vote again, please.
Chair Dodds,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwan,
Yes.
Commissioner Weary,
Yes.
Commissioner Amon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gust,
Right.
Vice Chair Thorstead,
Aye.
Commissioner Kopp.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Item number 5 is a public hearing, A25-14, DMF, second edition. a request for replat at 2245 and 2255 Rusted Lane East, Lot 3 and 4, Block 1 DMF Edition. Lisa.
Thank you. This application was received in order to subdivide 2 lots for vacation of a public utility easement. The applicant has submitted the request for property that is west of Duluth Trading Company along the north side of Rusted Lane East. The preliminary plat, again, it consists of 2 lots. The preliminary site plan shows 2 potential office buildings along the north side with a shared private access easement running north and south via Rusted Lane, as well as 2 water features along the south side of the lots. The plat was sent to local utility companies for review. Staff has no concerns with the vacation of the public utility easement. It's recommended that the city approve the proposed application on the basis that it is consistent with city plans and ordinances. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the applicant.
All right, do we have any questions for the staff? Seeing none, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the floor for any comments on this item. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment on this replat request? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for either questions, comments, and/or a motion.
I'll move to recommend approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Chair Dodds,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwan,
Yes.
Commissioner Weary,
Yes.
Commissioner Amon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gust,
Aye.
Vice Chair Thorstad,
Yes,
Commissioner Kopp.
Aye.
motion carries. Item number 6 is a public hearing, A 25-15, Section 26, T140N, R50W, a request for a conditional use permit at 2502 26th Street Northwest to operate a composting facility in a agricultural zoning district within the extraterritorial area, Section 26, R140N, R50W. Lisa.
Thank you. The conditional use permit application is for a food waste composting facility in an ag district in the West Fargo's ET area, about 1.5 miles north of the West Fargo city limits along the west side of 26th Street, northwest and north of 19th Avenue. The applicant describes a small-scale private composting facility for food waste, which they believe falls under the horticultural section of the agricultural zoning district, as compost produced will be used for soil amendments in local gardens, etc. The primary source of waste composted at the site would be food waste collected directly from homes and businesses. According to the applicant, the project is part of a 2-year pilot program issued by the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality. West Fargo city ordinances don't specifically allow for composting anywhere in the zoning code. The closest related use for a large-scale open-air composting facility would be a landfill, which is a conditionally permitted use in the heavy industrial zoning district, provided it's outside the city limits. However, the proposed small-scale enclosed composting facility is not comparable to a landfill and is more similar to other listed uses such as landscaping businesses, industrial, wood burners, agricultural service establishments, horticultural services, grain cleaning and drying, etc. Such uses require a conditional use permit to operate within the ag district and shall not be one in which noise, odor, dust, chemical residues of commercial, agricultural, horticulture may result in the creation or establishment of a nuisance. The applicant has submitted a site plan which outlines the proposed area to be used and a narrative describing the business and equipment. A fully enclosed composting system which operates at a sustained high temperature to promote rapid decomposition while controlling odors would be placed on a concrete pad and used under a temporary arch-style structure to protect the equipment from weather and to minimize potential nuisances year-round. The proposed site plan shows a 20 by 30 square foot concrete pad for the composting machine along the southwest portion of the property where there is an existing berm with landscaping to provide a buffer. The applicant indicated that they do not anticipate heavy truck traffic or high-volume activity. Vehicle trips would consist of 1 or 2 light-duty pickup trucks hauling food waste from homes and businesses, 1 or 2 vehicle trips per day by staff for general site management, and a couple times a month, there may be finished compost pickup or delivery and drop-off of wood chips. While large-scale open composting facilities could prevent a few different challenges relating to such things as odor, traffic, pest control, stormwater runoff, these issues are much less of a concern for the proposed small-scale, fully enclosed composting operation. As currently proposed, staff has very little concerns. However, if the facility were to expand and/or operations were to change, some of these issues may arise. As such, staff recommends that conditions be placed on any approval so as to ensure the composting operation is restricted in the manner and scale communicated by the applicant. Additionally, the subject property is located within the city's future growth area. While currently agricultural in nature, this area will likely be incorporated into the city of West Fargo at some point in the future. While the future adjacent land uses are currently unknown, there is a potential for future incompatibility issues to arise as growth occurs. As such, staff further recommends that any approval be temporary in nature and include a defined end date and/or sufficient sunset provision. No additional permitting would be required from the local environmental division. Fargo Cast Public Health indicated that their responsibilities would be limited to the enforcement of existing public health and nuisance regulations, such as a situation where the compost pile was not managed and became a nuisance in terms of rodent harborage or something similar. We did receive comments. We notified property owners within 350 feet and the township. A letter was received from an adjacent property owner with concerns regarding proposed use and potential negative impacts to the future long-term development. That letter was included in your packet. Due to the temporary nature of staff support for the requested conditional use permit and long-range concerns, staff has included 2 alternative recommendations for consideration by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is either recommended that the city deny the proposed application on the basis the proposed use is not consistent with city plans, ordinances, and surrounding land uses and would be more appropriate in an industrial zoned district, or it is recommended the city approve the proposed application on the basis with conditions it is consistent with city plans and ordinances with the recommended conditions of approval as follows. Number 1, a signed conditional use permit agreement is received prior to the final approval by the City Commission. Number 2, the composting operation shall be consistent with the submitted application details within the agenda packet. Number 3, all composting shall take place in an enclosed composter, such as the Actaman Grande rotating composter or similar type. Number 4, composting shall be limited to 1 enclosed composter with a maximum capacity of 20 cubic yards. Number 5, there shall be no outdoor storage of waste or compost materials. Number 6, the composting facility shall be restricted to the southwest portion of the subject property and shall be properly screened so as not to be visible from the public right-of-way. Number 7, all equipment shall be designed and operated in a manner that shall not create a nuisance to the adjoining properties. Number 8, this conditional use permit shall automatically expire 5 years from the date of final approval or upon annexation of the property into the city, whichever occurs first. Number 9, the operator of the composting facility shall be Prairie Compost Services, LLC. If the operator entity changes, the conditional use permit shall be nullified without further action. And finally, number 10, any modification to these conditions, including extension of the expiration dates, shall require review and approval of a new application in accordance with Title IV of the city ordinances. This is a public hearing. The applicant is available, and I believe there's some members of the public that may also like to speak.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions of the board or the staff before we get into the public hearing? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this subject, please come up to the podium and give your name and address.
Will you please push, there's a button that says push at the front of the microphone, will you push it? Please.
Red, is that a bad sign?
It should be green.
Okay, it's great now.
Do your best.
I'm Hayden Thompson. This is Bridger Scraper. We're the owners of Prairie Compost Services. We agree with the recommendations from the staff to approve it, all besides number 4, which limits us to just one enclosed composter. We recently received a grant in order to buy 2 composters that would both fit under that temporary enclosed arch structure that Lisa talked about. This allows us to be able to grow as a company to a stage where we can eventually leave after the 2-year pilot program to grow into a bigger spot somewhere else. As we are currently small, just trying to get our footing as a small business and just trying to grow to a spot where we can move somewhere bigger, as the area we're applying for is just a 1/4 acre plot of land. One composter really limits our capacity and our ability to grow. It would pretty much cap us to not be able to reach out and get more clients and kind of keep us in an area where our business can only break even and not create enough revenue to be able to go buy a new plot of land.
Yeah, with that, we're here to answer any questions anyone has about the composting process, the equipment. If anyone from the public has questions, we're happy to answer those. Just, I guess, the reason behind this whole thing, we're trying to divert as much food waste from the landfill as we can and create a resource for the community, which is healthy soil that they can use to grow local food, put in their gardens, on their lawns, and landscaping, that sort of thing. And so we would really appreciate your support at this time, giving us a footing and kind of a starting point. West Fargo would be a pioneer in North Dakota for this type of business.
Are there any questions for these gentlemen? They've offered to respond to them.
Yeah, how long does it take when you dump a load into these things for them to turn it into compost?
Yep, so from start to finish, about 4 to 6 weeks. So think of like a big culvert almost that's rotating.
I compost at home, and I know I got 3 bins. One that stinks to high heaven.
Yep.
2 that smells a little better, and then the third one is usually good stuff. So,
Yep.
I'm pretty familiar with this, and I know what it smells like coming out of my little bucket under the sink.
Yep, yeah, so.
And I live just north of this. I'm also chairman of Raymond Township Board of Supervisors,
Oh.
where this thing is going to,
Perfect.
going to end up.
Yeah, so
Um,
to
So,
sort of,
and what I'm getting at is, where are you going to store all the other stuff that you're picking this up daily, I assume, from a restaurant? Where's that going to go while you're waiting for this to finish? Or is it done in stages within the machine?
Sure, yep, so if you think about it as a big cylinder, you're loading it in on one end continuously. So every day that we pick up, that same day, we load the material into the composter. And then as it rotates, it pushes it down from one end to the outflow. And so we won't have any material that isn't in the composting process. Compared to something like piles or bins where you have to build it up in chunks, we can just load it in continuously. And that's sort of why we went with this system, is so we have the flexibility to load it in every day instead of doing it, in batches like you mentioned.
So for things like smells and odors that are with composting, it's all on just the raw food waste that's going in. So when we add the food waste in, that's just the only smelly part, but it's contained once we load it in there into that system. And then when it pushes down through the line, through that 4 to 6 weeks, when it comes out as just compost. So you can pick it up, bring it to your face, and it just smells like soil that you'd take out of your garden.
So the grant that you talked about, is that through the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality?
No, it was through a private company.
Okay, so I noticed too that there's mention of a pilot program through NDDEQ. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about? Did you apply for that? Did they reach out to you? How did that process work?
Yes, so in the application, we noted that, so this approval from the local zoning is the first step in that. And so we don't have that permit yet. This is the first stage. When we get this approval, it's about a 4 to 6 week process. And essentially, it's a solid waste permit, but they made it a shorter, simpler process for pilot programs like this to kind of give small businesses a chance to try out some of these processes. And yeah, so we reached out to the department there, had a few meetings, and found out that would be a good fit for us. That project just passed in October. It's a pretty fresh permit application.
So essentially, you go through, it just acts as a normal permit for that 2-year span once it's approved. And then at the end of the 2-year span, I believe there's an application to extend that or just apply for just a full-scale normal working permit.
So are you actively composting right now, or is this dependent on you being able to get the permit here?
Yeah, so we have been composting for about a year, a very small scale. Think just like a little bit of like a larger backyard kind of scale. With this grant, the reason we're kind of, running through this process now is to implement this larger equipment, increase our capacity, and kind of make sure we're following the guidelines here. North Dakota is a little bit behind in terms of having ordinances in place, that kind of support that initial phase of a composting operation, because it's just sort of either nothing or it's the jump to the very large-scale operation, right? And so we're, applying now kind of in this like phase where we're going from like a backyard size thing to we want to make it a little bigger.
So you're doing the slightly larger than backyard composting. Is that on the same property that we're talking about today?
Yes.
And have you received any complaints or anything like that from neighbors or nearby property owners?
No.
I have, as chairman of Redmond Township, but I wanted to come and listen to this first, and I guess if you're done.
I'm done.
What happens when it's 30 below in the winter? How does this thing work?
Yep, so these things have about 6 inches of insulation. It's a stainless steel interior chamber, 6 inches of insulation, and then steel on the outside again. They run these things up in northern Canada, close to the Arctic Circle year-round. They don't have issues with the machines freezing. As long as you keep the feedstock coming in, the food waste, the microbes, keep the piles hot enough.
Creates its own heat.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yep. And so you're not adding any additional heat to this?
Correct, yep.
Do you guys have sources, sorry, Eric.
Go ahead.
Do you guys have sources lined up for the food waste to come in already, or is that something you're still working on?
Yep, so we have a bunch of homeowners that are interested, a few businesses, restaurants that are interested as well. Yeah. So we kind of wanted to get all these ducks in a row first before really pushing hard for, expansion.
I was going to ask a similar question, just curious on your sort of market research. You feel like obviously there's a demand or a need for this service. And secondly, curious, where's the closest installation of something similar?
The closest one is on the Minnesota side in Alexandria, in Pope County. It's a pretty recent facility. I think within the last year it got finished up.
Maybe one follow-up question on the potential for odors, which I understand it's a closed system, but there's other closed systems that still have odors with them. Is there an option to put any sort of, carbon scrubber or something on the exhaust side of this if need be?
Yep, so on this unit, on the outflow, it's just kind of a big circle. You can sort of port that out with a blower fan and pump that into like a pile of wood chips and do like a carbon scrubber like you mentioned. That's a common way people do biofiltration, but yeah.
Any other questions for these gentlemen?
Maybe one other follow-up question. Are you anticipating that people with food waste will deliver it to you, or will you have a pickup service as well?
That's a good question. So it's a pickup service only. We're not going to do any drop-off. So kind of in an effort to make sure we minimize traffic on those roads, we do all the pickups. There's no public drop-off, and for that reason, we can limit it down to 1 or 2 trucks for myself and Hayden.
And probably control the quality of material you're receiving?
Exactly, yeah.
Are you guys aware that that road floods severely for the time being, till Jason here gets his big ditch working? It's just going to be weeks and weeks and could be months that you will not be getting there.
We've talked with the Pope Douglas composting facility. So he made it kind of clear if any problems arise where we're not able to bring that raw food waste in and compost it, we can always bring it there so it's not just piling up and there's not going to be an instance where there's food waste just sitting there because we can't get to it because of the road's flooded or something else goes wrong, we would then haul that over to the Pope Douglas site, so then we're not creating an area where pests and stuff and odor are coming from just a big pile of uncomposted waste.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any additional public comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Morgan Fornes. I live just a stone's throw away from that property. Extraterritorial, down the road from Mr. Gust as well. I live on the Larson property, the letter that you received from the Larson Farms. I live on the homestead there with my family, within probably less than a quarter of a mile from the site. Was not aware of this until Mr. Larson called me and asked me to attend on behalf of the family. He lives in Texas. But it's our home. Up until, recently, every spring, that whole area floods, as many of you well know. But what I find interesting is that just 2 weeks ago, I attended a city meeting with master planning for what does the future of West Fargo look like. And we were asked to put dots on different things about priorities of neighborhoods, of businesses, of transportation. And the city of West Fargo was saying we need to look out 25 to 30 years as to what the future growth of West Fargo will be after the completion of the diversion. I've had a lot of communication with the diversion. They're doing their project 4 miles away. There's been traffic issues and all that, but they've been very communicative about, making sure that the needs of that area are met. Very probably surprised by the fact that it seems like the cart is before the horse. The discussion a couple weeks ago was that the hub at 19th Avenue and 26th Street may be a major traffic hub in the future of West Fargo, which is less than a quarter of a mile from this site. They talked about potential neighborhoods that might be developed, whether it be residential neighborhoods or things like that. And my question is, how can you be rezoning an extraterritorial spaces prior to even the city of West Fargo determining what the future of the growth area of that space will be? I know West Fargo Public Schools has looked at land out close to that area as well for a potential school site. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about the future development of that area. You're within a mile of the Cheyenne River to the east, a half mile to the Maple River to the north, and there's a lot of unanswered questions, I think, that have to be considered prior to rezoning extraterritorial space that is still being brainstormed by the city of West Fargo. So I applaud the motive of the business there. It's an environmentally sound business, it sounds like, and things like that, but it does not seem to fit in with the future potential plans that I hear from West Fargo as they are considering the future growth of this city up to 2050. And I think some more homework needs to be done in that regard. So I stand for any questions that you might have, but I was surprised that being that close to the site was not made aware of it, and that's my home as well.
Marshall, does the idea that this is going to sunset in 5 years or when West Fargo annexes them, does that allay some of your concerns? Because, I mean, what I'm hearing is that this is temporary, that they're going to use this facility as proof of concept, they're going to make it work, and if it works, it's going to fly, and they're going to move to a larger, more appropriate area. And I trust staff here that, yeah, they're done in 5 years, or when they annex. And I've worked with these guys for 10 years now, and I believe that this thing will be gone before that kind of stuff starts happening.
Yeah,
And honestly, if you shook your head at me, I would vote against this, because you're my constituent. You're in my township.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well-
But a lot of my fears, and we've had this discussion, have been allayed by what these two gentlemen have told me. And
It may or may not sunset. The other thing is maybe it'll grow depending on what the city, maybe that's a demolition site in the future. Who knows what
No,
the city
no.
needs, but I hope that's not the case.
trust me, that will not happen. You got to, and I've seen this kind of stuff.
But,
It will not happen.
I've lived there my whole life.
guarantee
I grew up just a mile from there as well, but saw similar things with the meatpacking plant and some of the sewage lagoon issues and things like that. Those things take time, and they're hard to overcome, and I'm just saying that there's neighbors in that area that also have to be considered as you rezone something without really a master plan fulfilled at this time. And that's all I'm asking, is that give the city time to put a master plan together, because there's a lot of factors to take into consideration from what I heard 2 weeks ago.
And it's not a rezoning, it's a conditional use permit.
Okay.
And on that permit will be conditions. And one of those conditions is that it will sunset in 5 years or when the city annexes it. I promise you,
Yeah.
I'll stake my reputation on it, Marshall, I really will, that this will be gone in that amount of time.
Well, I'm just expressing my concern as somebody who lives right next to the property, and, you're looking for a quality of life as well for your family, and there's a reason we moved out there. And I'm not opposed to businesses and economic growth and all of that, but it just seems an outlier without a connection to a master plan, and it just seems to be kind of a shoot from the hip thing. Seems like there'd be better spaces closer to maybe a dump site or something like that something like this could be done instead of out in the wild frontier, so.
Yeah. Morgan, I live up north, close to you too. Do you have any complaints of odors of what they're doing now with the composting? With the small scale stuff they're doing now, have you noticed any odor or anything coming from there?
Well, they're not doing it there.
Do you guys have compost on the site now that you're doing small scale?
You're talking at the site where they're proposing?
Yep.
Well, it's kind of just a manure pile because there were horses there and things like that. Yeah, there's been some concerns about the property itself, but I consider her a neighbor as well, so I'm not speaking bad about her. I helped her many times during the flood and things like that, but it just does not seem to fit with that neighborhood at the present time. So I felt obligated to share my concerns, speaking also on behalf of the Larson family. It just, like I said, seems like the cart's put before the horse without some thorough thought going into it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mitch Smanko. I'm actually from Fargo, North Dakota, but I work out in West Fargo, North Dakota, up in that northwest quadrant. I'd just like clarification on the question the gentleman asked. The gentleman, is he smelling anything or not? He did not answer that question, and I have been out to the site. Bridger's actually my son-in-law, and being on the site, it's self-contained, no smell, so I just would like to have clarification on that question that was asked from him to see what the answer is. Thank you.
Is there any additional public comment on this item? Any more public comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for comments, questions, or motions.
If we were to edit to any of these, do we have to do that prior to the motion? Is that how that works?
Yeah, you have to include it in your
Yeah.
motion.
Yep. Motion to approve per recommendations from the city minus number 4, if they're able to fit 2 within the structure, I would limit it to 2 enclosed composters.
We have a motion. Is there a second on that motion?
I'd like to second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote on the motion.
We have some discussion.
Discussion? Okay, let's have some discussion.
Can there be language in there that if the neighbors do smell anything, there's a route to mitigate that or shut them down on northwest winds, which would come into Morgan's yard, or straight south winds will come into mine? You guys have allayed some fears that I've heard, but I also got to go along with what I'm hearing from.
We could add a condition regarding mitigation, however you want to word that. If complaints are received, it would need to be reviewed. The conditional use permit will be recorded, will be signed by the owner and the applicants, and will be recorded against the property with the Cass County Recorder's Office, just for your information. But we could add an additional condition regarding mitigation should complaints be received.
May I ask, who monitors that they're following the regulations, or is it just complaint-driven?
Would be complaint-driven.
I drive by there 3-4 times a day.
So you're going to monitor it. Okay, is there any additional comment before we go to vote?
Is there any additional concern that's raised with the suggestion for 2 composters versus 1?
I don't believe so, as long as they operated in the manner that they've suggested, and they've indicated that it fits on that slab that they're proposing and will fit underneath the temporary cover.
Any additional questions?
Do we need to?
Well, we'd need to modify the,
Modify it?
Yeah.
Would I need to modify it then? Yeah.
Yes, it'd be up to you whether you wish to.
Add, let's see, number 11 to the, let's see, recommended conditions, that if there are any complaints that it can be modified to I don't know how to
Mitigate.
say it, mitigate the smell concerns.
we need the attorney for that one?
How do we, how do we want to word that?
Or maybe, I don't know if Aaron has a comment he wants to make first.
No, I would certainly invite the city attorney's comments on this. Generally speaking, we want to be as kind of objective as we can with the conditions so that it's measurable if possible. Anybody submitting a complaint and triggering, action, I think we'd want to, I guess, spell it out as best we can as a condition, so.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of this, it's probably like nuisance-based, right? So complaints coming in and then taking whatever actions we need to abate a nuisance.
Yeah.
So did we have a change there? I don't think we really changed the
Yeah, hold
motion,
on.
did we much?
Just
You're-
adding, like, if complaints come in, right, following the nuisance process to abate.
Yeah, and I'll maybe just add, let's see. I thought we had a condition in here already. Oh yeah, number 7, condition number 7. All equipment shall be designed and operated in a manner that shall not create a nuisance to adjoining properties. So I think that was kind of the intention, is that, if we do receive any complaints of an issue,
Complaints of
staff
like
could kind of
noise
go
or
out and
smell
investigate.
or, okay.
And we would do our best to work with them to mitigate what the potential nuisance would be. I know that's not, super explicit in terms of what that means, but that's kind of the intention, I think, is in line with what you were looking for there. And so, again, if the city attorney has any suggestions for updated language, we'd be happy to hear them. But.
No,
That cover what you were
that, I mean, that probably covers it. Otherwise, it's hard to set
Yeah,
a certain
I
figure
get
on
that.
it, quantify it.
These are my people.
Say, just a comment, guys, as I'm reading, I like the mention of number 7. Condition number 10 then talks about any modification to these conditions, including extension of the expiration date, shall require review and approval of a new application. I'm wondering if we shouldn't add to that something along the lines of any modification to these conditions, including extension of the expiration date or receipt of nuisance complaints, shall require review and approval of new application, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe just a staff comment, if I may. I think, staff's opinion would be to, avoid any, a nuisance complaint, city receiving just any complaint triggering, a re-review and potential nullification of the CUP. So I would just, I guess, caution that.
Okay, good point. We'll have to have meetings every week if we do that, right?
I'm okay proceeding with my original motion then.
Okay, and then you're still good with your second? Okay. Any additional comments, questions, thoughts?
I don't like the idea of an extension, but I'll let my vote
Cross that
show that.
bridge.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote on the matter.
Chair Dodds,
Yes.
Chair Schwan, or Commissioner Schwan,
Yes.
Commissioner Weary,
Yes.
Commissioner Almond,
Yes.
Commissioner Gust,
No.
Vice Chair Thorsted,
Yes,
Commissioner Cup.
Aye.
motion carries. Now we're on to non-agenda items. Are there any non-agenda items? Okay, we're going to adjourn from the regular meeting then, unless you got a non-agenda item?
Just maybe a point of clarification. So item number 1, do we need a motion and action to continue that? Maybe a question for the city attorney here.
Yeah, I think we generally take a motion for it, to continue the public hearing on the first item.
Yeah.
Okay,
Move to continue the first item.
Second.
have a motion to approve and second to continue it to August. Roll call vote, please.
That can just be a voice vote.
Yeah, you can just do voice on that one if you want.
Okay, we'll do a voice vote.
Sorry.
You the guys pushing the roll call vote, so. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Carries. Eric, get back here fast. Okay,
Great.
now non-agenda items. Do you have any non-agenda items? Okay, we're adjourning from the regular agenda, if that's all right. We can have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
A second? Okay, we are adjourning from the regular agenda. Now we have a discussion agenda. Inclusion of public comment section during Planning and Zoning Commission meetings pursuant to Senate Bill 2180.
All right. So for a discussion item here, this is more of an FYI and an invitation for, I guess, thoughts of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So Senate Bill 2180, recently adopted by the state of North Dakota. In essence, it's going to be mandating a public comment period for all public meetings, including the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. And so this will become effective August 1st of 2025. And so our intention is just to make the Planning and Zoning Commission aware at this time. And then I think we would come back to you next month with, an outline of a policy for how we're going to handle the public comment period. Most of the items that come before the Planning and Zoning Commission are public hearing items anyway, and so I don't anticipate there being a whole lot of use of a general public comment period. However, we will start to include those on the meeting agendas after August 1st. So our intention right now is just to basically mimic what the City Commission already does, and then if there's any changes to the way the City Commission handles public comments, we would do our best to make sure that the Planning and Zoning Commission is consistent with the City Commission, unless, of course, the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to do, something differently. But in essence, on the city commission meeting agendas, as of about a year and a half ago or so, there is 2 minutes and 30 seconds allotted to anybody that signs up to speak at the public comment period ahead of time. On the city website, there is a little sign-up form, and so we would anticipate having a very similar sign-up form for the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings as well. So people would be signing up in advance, and then there would be some limitations in terms of the time that they would be allowed to speak. Additionally, there are some kind of policy guidance, outline of kind of what is and what is not allowed to be included in a policy. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission, we can limit the length of time, for example, that the public comment period lasts, or limit the length of time of any individual speakers, things like that. So that's just an introduction for now. Again, happy to hear any feedback that you all have. Otherwise, we'll bring back a outline of a policy here next month. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else to discuss, anybody? Seeing none, I guess that means we're done. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week, or next month in person.